be talking about on this channel is a lot of things: life, love, faith. I grew up as a Pentecostal Christian. I don't identify as Pentecostal anymore, but I am very faith driven. I'm going to also talk about issues that impact the LGBT community because Lord knows there's so much going on in the world related to that, especially with LGBT issues and faith. I'm sure I know there are other channels out there that kind of touch on this subject, and I'm just going to be one of the other many voices sharing my perspective and my story, and hopefully this inspires other people to share their story. But yeah, let's get started. So again, I'm 27. I was born in 1988. My mom and my dad were born in the Bronx, and like I said before, I was raised in a Pentecostal church, Assemblies of God to be precise, because there are a couple different factions, denominations, I call them. Um, but yeah, I grew up in went to church every Sunday, Bible study, was part of like children's ministry, and was part of all the dramas and like theatrics and things that were going on. Didn't understand a lot was going on at the time, and people falling over, people speaking weird languages. I was like, what the heck is going on? But I learned as I grew up. But yeah, my upbringing was pretty good. I was somewhat of a lonely kid, but I had friends sometimes, at church and things like that. Um, when I was 12, my parents decided to divorce. They just had irreconcilable differences and they just divorced, and that impacted me greatly. Um, Not long after that, I discovered personally that I was attracted to other guys. And this wasn't because my mother was overbearing or my dad was not there. They were both very present and active in my life, still are to this day. So that's that theory out the window. But I discovered, oh crap, I like guys, and I don't think this is right, um, according to God. So I had a really big dilemma there. And I was just about to enter high school, so it was crazy there. But yeah, I entered high school. But yeah, that was the start of a rough teenage couple years. When I was in my sophomore year of high school, towards the end, I discovered this church in Midtown Manhattan, and they had this youth program. It was through like a TV news thing. It was random, but I saw like, oh, this is kind of cool. I'll go check it out, and that's how I discovered the church, and met so many great friends. Like the first person I met there was my friend Pablo. We're still friends to this date. So over 10 years now. He'd been an usher, so greeting people and showing them to seats. Said hello to me and welcomed me, and um, I got started getting involved, meeting other friends and kids there. I was involved. Became an usher. I was in theater and drama. Hello, I can't sing that well, but I was a part of that, and I felt that by being a part of this community, I had to be very straightforward and honest with the leadership about my sexuality and how I felt, and I let them know that I experienced these feelings and all this stuff, and they were very supportive that I was there. Now, they weren't encouraging me to pursue the feelings. It was very opposite. It was a very conservative environment. Um, if anything, if anytime those feelings came up, or if I was tempted to act on them, it was more like I had to pray and rebuke the devil and be like, get out of my face. Um, but yeah, I got heavily involved in ushers, drama, high school ministry. Um, I was in a leadership small group as I got old in my junior year, so I was being basically grown to be one of the leaders of the ministry. People who knew, looked up to me and other people that were in that circle. Um, so I guess you could say we were quote unquote the popular kids, but it wasn't like popularity, but it was just that because we were so involved in on that platform, people knew who we were. Um, but yeah, junior year came around, and first semester of junior year, I was textbook born again, on fire for Jesus Christian. Like I wasn't really practicing sophomore year, and then junior year after I discovered this church, I was on fire. This was the 2004 election season. I was not eligible to vote yet. yet I was very much a Bush supporter. I'll have to say a couple of Hail Marys for that one, but I was very much a staunch Bush supporter. And there was this one guy in my class. He was a year older than me, and he was gay, and he was nice, and he liked me. Just he thought I was a nice person, but he just thought I was crazy for ever supporting Bush. He was like, "What is wrong with you?" Um, so yeah, it was part of the church doing my thing. Um, January 2005 comes around. When I come back from Christmas break, um, and I'm a totally different person. I put away the on fire for Jesus freak type mentality, and I was still a Christian. I was still like Jesus and going to church and all these things. Um, but my feelings arose again, and people started asking me, like one person in particular at lunch at this table I was hanging out with. Ironically, it was like the Christian guy hanging out with like the punk and goth kids, and like the one really flamboyant gay guy. Um, and for weeks he would ask me, he's like, "Are you gay? I think you're gay. You sure?" And I would deny it, firmly deny it. And one day, somebody else asked me that was at the table. He hadn't been there, and they were like, "Are you gay?" And I was like, "No, I'm not gay, but I think I'm bisexual." Um, my bisexuality lasted maybe 3 weeks, um, but it was a very fast tracked thing. And at the same time, we were getting ready to start putting together rehearsals for a new drama production at the church called The Looking Glass, and it dealt with sensitive topics like rape, um, sexuality. There was a gay character um, in the show, um, someone who felt abandoned by their parents. It was just very, very tough drama. And the drama director, came up to me and asked me if I wanted to audition for the character. His name was John, um, who later we find out is gay. Um, and at the time, I just told her, because I was now at this point, I was trying to be double life and make sure that I'm keeping all my eggs in the right baskets. And I was like, no, I'm not ready to do that. I can't face that type of thing. So she passed on to someone else. So I was just a supporting character at this point, which I was fine with. There was no animosity there. I was not looking to be the star or anything. Um, More of it, I wanted to be in drama because all my friends were in the drama team. So I was like, oh, this is a perfect opportunity to hang out on Saturdays because we go hang out for 4 hours doing this and then we go do stuff. Um, but yeah, so that was when I started really living my double life. I started chatting with guys online. I went to meet up with one guy on a really cold day. I don't know what I was thinking. Um, we didn't do anything. It was just like we hung out. And it was it. It was very awkward. Um, a month after that, so more was springtime now. It was warm. I started talking to this other guy who lived all the way in like Rockaway, which is really far out in Queens. So it took like an hour and a half to get there. Um, and we liked each other. We hung out and stuff. But then he ended it because I didn't want to. He wanted to take the relationship further than I was ready, if you know what I mean. Yeah. But then I met someone else, and this is all while I'm out at school, so there's no issues there. I'm out and comfortable, and but at church I was in the closet, and luckily no one at my school went to my church, so it was very like, what? Except for one time where someone from a different church, they came to my church and they saw me, and I looked at them and I was just like, girl, don't say anything. Um, little did I know that they were gay too. I just didn't know. But anyway, I started talking to someone again, and this one was a little bit more serious, and we really liked each other, and we started dating for a couple weeks. And this is during the show, like the production was underway. We were in dress rehearsals, and like we were about to do it at the end of June, and this was Pride Month, so they was just like definitely focused to do it for the gays. Um, they even had like an outreach the weekend before down in the village. I didn't go to that, but I heard about that. It was crazy. Um, But that same weekend, it just so happened to be the Billy Graham Crusades. Billy Graham came to New York City and did um, a crusade. One of his great crusades is that last one, I believe, actually. And he preached, and there was music, and it was really nice. I thought it was actually really nice. Um, but yeah, it was like that Friday we did the show, and then Saturday we went to the crusade thing, and then I got a call from my boyfriend at the time, and at somehow the drama director knew what I was seeing someone, and she was like, "You need to end this. You need to end this now. Like this needs to you like my big fat Greek wedding. You may be having a little romance. End it now." Like it was just textbook perfect. But I ignored the call. I broke up with him, saying I couldn't be gay. I was confused, whatever. Um, anyway, back and forth, took me back, broke up. I was auditioning to be part of the choir, even though, like I said earlier, I don't sing. Um, I didn't get in. I actually got pulled into a meeting with the administrative assistant to the youth pastor because word got around that I had been meeting up with guys and just doing things I wasn't supposed to be doing. At this point, even if I was just hanging out with another guy, it would have been like no. But aside the fact this was done, and they were like, "You need to step down from the drama team," and I didn't want to. I was like, why should I? I mean, I haven't done anything, but they were like, "No, you're struggling with stuff, and you're clearly not trying to deal with it. You're embracing it, so we need you to just step down." Um, they never told me to step down from ushering, but I feel like later on, my view on ministry and serving in church was like, well, if I can't do one thing, then I shouldn't be able to do anything. If you're gonna take one thing away from me, whatever. Um, but anyway, so I was still serving as an usher, and I was there for maybe another 2.5, 3 months. But I started skipping, just not showing up. Um, Arbitrarily. I was like over it. I got very bitter um, because it wasn't so much the fact that they were like, "Well, you're breaking the rules, so you can't do this." Like I was still allowed to come to church. I wasn't banned from the church. No one kicked me out. Um, but after that point, people looked at me differently. Um, I always kept getting the, "Are you okay? Do you need to talk to someone? Like, what's going on? If I missed a Sunday or I missed a Friday, where have you been? Like, we didn't see you." Like, it was very overbearing. And I was like, I was very frustrated. I was still talking to some friends, but at this point, some of these friends, they were still in the church, but we didn't really talk for a while. I was even more out. I was still back and forth crisis with my sexuality, and this would go on for almost 5, 6 years, um, less so. But there, I got to a point where I said, you know what, I'm not gonna come back here. This isn't for me. I need to figure out who I am, and I discovered the Gay and Lesbian Center here in New York through a friend, and I made a bunch of new friends. Still came in contact with my old friends, the ones who actually like cared and really bring up my sexuality. It was very just like, okay, whatever. A lot of them went off to college because they were a year older than me, so it was irrelevant anyway. But I was at the Gay and Lesbian Center, and I started learning about, gender identity and pronouns and all these things, and it was a whole new world to me, and I was like, wow, I never even thought about this, but I thought it was kind of cool. But I learned just life skills and learning resume. They were really helpful as far as finding jobs and being social and doing other things that weren't necessarily religious oriented, which is all I knew really. I didn't have a social group outside of church ever. Um, but by this time I turned 18, so didn't was going out, sneaking into bars, partying, hanging out till late. My mom, I came out to my mother through an argument. Never come out arguing. It's a bad decision. Don't do it. Trust me. Um, which it didn't go well. She just kind of ignored it and thought it was a phase. But a couple years later, she ended up re-asking me. Um, and to see, just make sure. Um, but yeah, so now we're in college age. I started college, started hanging out with people, dating. Um, I wasn't motivated. I didn't know what I wanted to do or what I wanted to study. So I was just taking the arbitrary classes and missing class more, so not doing work. Ended up after taking 2 years worth of classes, withdrawing because I was not focused. I finally found a good job that I liked, but I was not focused for school, so I just dropped out. Still was partying, drinking, the whole nine, dating here and there, but I wasn't really successful. Everybody was odd. Um, and that was what, 2010. Um, yeah, I dropped out of school. So we're working full time for the next couple years. Ended up moving to Florida for 6 months and then coming back. I'll touch on that in another video because it goes into detail. But when I came back, I was really sad and just lonely because a lot of the friends I had just weren't hanging around anymore. Um, I was actually still reconnecting with my old friends in the church. It's funny, but like the new friends, a lot of them were just gone um, for whatever reason. Um, but I just felt like everything was hopeless, and in the back of my head, I was like, maybe if I just go back to the church, if I just try to be straight, if I just try to figure this out, maybe God will fix me. Maybe there's hope still. Um, and by this time, I've been in pride parades for years and been active in organizations, completely backpedaling and going the other way. Um, I found a church that was very different from the one I'd been in high school, even the one I grew up in. It was still very um, evangelical, it was very charismatic, but it was more on the liberal side for me. Like they didn't discourage drinking, but they, obviously don't get drunk, but they didn't mind you having a beer or whatever. So it was cool. People were my age, mid 20s, and I got involved like right away, 3 weeks in. And I had said before, like, I said to God, I'll go to church, but I don't want to be involved. I don't want to be in anything. I'm just gonna go and leave. Just gonna attend. Um, that didn't happen. I ended up just jumping in and getting involved on their logistics team, which means that you get to church before, like a couple hours before, to set up, and then you stay afterwards to break everything down to pack it up in a truck because we didn't have a building that we owned, and driving it away. And quickly, within like 4 or 5 months, I went from just being on the team to actually leading the team and doing things like that. Um, and this whole was about a good year and a half. Um, and I told my pastor about, my history, my past, and everything, and that was fine. At this point, I was still very struggling with sexuality and pornography, and just trying to get rid of all these feelings. Um, but then I started getting really confused um, with as far as religion. What does God say about sexuality? How do I identify? Do I use the word gay? Do I use same-sex attracted? What is right? I got involved with a Facebook group, a Calvinist Facebook group, because I'd been listening to some speakers on the internet, and I thought they were pretty good and sound. One of them, not necessarily the best. His church ended up getting shut down about 6 months later. But I was part of this group, and I learned a lot about Reformed theology, as they call it, and it was something very different and new to me. Um, anytime this topic of homosexuality would come up, people would, for the most part, be very negative, and I played devil's advocate, I guess, a defender. I'd be like, I'm defending the gays. Like, you can't talk this shit about people who you don't know. Like, just because someone's gay doesn't mean that they're a bad person. Like, this is you need to back off. Watch what you say because it can be very offensive, especially when they were talking about trans people. I did not like it. Um, and there were other people in the group who identified as same-sex attracted. One person identifies as gay, but he was very specific about the fact that he was celibate, which I don't mind. I honor that. I really feel that, your spiritual path is yours. um, just don't come barreling down on mine and running me over or trying to. Anywho, I thought I was supposed to go out, to the nations and be missionary and pastor and all this stuff. So I signed up for this year-round mission trip, um, run by an organization that tended to be very charismatic. I found out later, and because I was having this crisis about religion and doctrine and stuff, I ended up not going on the trip and removing my application because I didn't agree with a lot of the teaching, and I just felt like I would just get kicked out or something. Um, Not too long after that, a few months later, I found out one of my closest friends from college had committed suicide because she was depressed and, you know, and alcohol and drinking a lot. And just, it was very very sad. And the funny thing is, although death is a very sad thing, I felt like that was God's wake up call, or more so, something went off in my head, and it was like, what the fuck? Why am I here? What's going on? Like, what do I need to do? What's all this? And at this point, I had already been burnt out like 4 times from serving on church stuff, and I wanted to just stop. I was like, I don't want to be on this team anymore. I want to be here, but I don't want to be in this team. Um, I relinquished my position to someone else. Stopped serving. Actually stopped attending for about 2 months, um, because I was still having the crisis with the type of church I was attending and looking at other churches. And my pastor didn't take it too well that I was looking at other churches, and I even mentioned it that I had a problem. And there was nothing against him as a person. It was just I didn't agree, but I'm very bad at confrontation, and I didn't say anything. Um, but basically, I never ended up leaving the church. But the end of the year came, and New Year's, I felt like I had to change something. I was like, God, what do you want me to do? Where do I belong? What do you have for me? And I just felt like I needed to rest, first of all, but second, I needed to be myself. I needed to be true to myself and stand in my truth. I think Oprah said that, or at least you know, live free. Um, and I said, the thought in the back of my head was like, you've been going about this the entirely wrong way. Um, Spirituality is great, faith is important, but you are fearfully and wonderfully made. It says that in the Psalms, and God didn't make a mistake with you. And so I said, okay, I'm a gay man. I'm accepting this fact, and I'm going to accept myself. And so I started, you know, going out again and reconnecting with old friends, going on dating sites, which terrified me because I was like, I haven't been on a date in close to 4 years. Like, I have no idea what to do anymore. You know, how am I going to explain my Christianity and my journey? People are going to think I'm crazy. And well, anyway, I met someone on OkCupid, my boyfriend, and now we just celebrated a year. Um, and he has a similar background. He's Catholic, so a little different, but very similar. And maybe he'll share his story on here one day. We'll see. Um, but 2015 was very important for me. Now that just to kind of sum it up, um, it was time for me to figure out who I am, live in that truth, accept it, um, and decide what I wanted to do. I decided I want to go back to school, and so I registered for classes and everything. So I wanted to start a business, and I might still start a business. Who knows? But um, my boyfriend's been a very, very supportive person for that. But I went public with my relationship on social media, so a lot of my church friends from the recent church found out. No one has directly confronted me um, about this, saying that they disapprove. I actually got a lot of encouraging words from people. Um, some people may have distanced themselves from me, but they've never outright disrespected me or my relationship. I don't go often, and that's just because I'm working so much on weekends and stuff. Um, but I still seek to be part of the community um, and try to be just a bridge between the LGBT community and communities of faith that aren't necessarily affirming of LGBT people right now, but are looking to address the answer and the question. Um, so I hope that I can be that person in that community. But I'm learning a lot, connecting with other LGBT people through Twitter, writers, YouTubers, things like that. Um, there's a lot of us out there. And my goal with this channel is just to create a platform for others to have a voice. I want to give a voice to those who don't have one. People who might be afraid to speak, you know, oh, give me the words that you want to say and I'll say it for you. Um, that's just one of the goals. I mean, obviously, I want to talk about faith topics, but also life, you know, things going on in daily life, like how to, live and cope, especially in New York City. It's just crazy. Um, Topics about love and relationships because I've been through a couple of them and I can see, ups and downs. Um, and just have fun. This channel is really going to be open and accepting, and give me feedback. Tell me what you want to see more of. If you want to hear more challenges, I'll do challenges. If you want to have questions answered, give me some questions. I'll do a Q&A or something. Um, I'll probably have some people join on the channel, do some collaborations. We'll see. The sky's the limit. I mean, this is just the one of many videos. It's it's pretty long. I'm not apologizing for that. Kudos to you if you stayed through the entire time. Like, you're awesome. Thank you for that. Please definitely rate, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Give me feedback. My links to Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, they're all there. Google Plus. I don't really use Google Plus, but it's there. My email's there if you have questions. But yeah, I mean, I look forward to this journey, and I look forward to talking to you next time. Bye, guys.